I mentioned it previously that I would come across a jumping puzzle and I'd be like, oh yeah, I need to record that at some point. But then I never got around to it because it was like part of a daily, like, yeah, I need to come back later and do that thing. Well, here it is. There's a daily event happening in Iron Marshes. And I'm like, I've done my daily and I've just been running around randomly farming stuff. How's about I do the jumping puzzle before I go? And then I'm like, oh yeah, maybe I should record it. So the Old Piken Ruins waypoint is where you want to go in Iron Marshes. And I'm not going to use my most adorable little gray Crichton Lop. Isn't he so cute? It's so adorable. It's ridiculous how adorable that thing is. It came out in, what was it, late November, early December, and I'm a hetero guy, and I could not resist getting this thing. You should see it on my Elementalist. It's the original color, and it's stupidly adorable. I'm sorry, like, can't stand. So yeah, I'm not going to use that because this is a jumping puzzle that does not allow you to use mounts, if I remember correctly. Ooh, a tree. Like I said, I've been farming trees for the last few minutes. Last few minutes? Yeah, try the last 20 minutes. Get away from it. And yes, there are diving goggles. I might as well do them while I'm here. Look up to the edge. What's a naked tree look like, by the way? Oh well. Let's see. Leap. It's not difficult. Just use WASD and some common sense and you'll make it just fine. Straight down. It's a U-bend. And straight up. I've mentioned the Chaos Crystal Cavern a number of times for one particular reason. If you want to do...
What?
And you'll understand what that is in a moment here. Anyways, yeah, he's not going anywhere. He's going to die down here, so whatever. And there's the remains of some other Inquisitor characters. So, by the way, most jumping puzzles, not all of them, but most jumping puzzles have a story or some kind of motivation behind them. This guy's like, yeah, your motivation is to get out of here by doing the jumping puzzle. Anyways, I've mentioned Chaos Crystal Caverns a number of times. And I've said it's a really great way, if you're starting out with jumping puzzles, it's a really great way to do platforms. To do platforms, really narrow platforms and pillars. It's a really great way to do that. And one of the advantages to this place is it actually creates a lot of trouble for you. Oh yeah, that reminds me, I need to switch to ranged combat. So there's enemies kind of randomly appearing and disappearing all over the place. Not in sight immediately, but they are there. Wait, I saw that. Nightmare Courtier. Sometimes there's a centaur. Sometimes there's an imp. There's all kinds of things that pop up in here. And it's completely random. So, they do not pop up in the same places. Anyways, one of the other things that's really advantageous is if you're looking at the ground, your camera is going to bump into these crystals over your head. There's nothing you can do about that. So this place does a couple of things. One, it helps train you from distractions, from random critters that are popping up all over the place. Which you do have to take care of, and I've said it in numerous jumping puzzle previous videos. I should be in range, but I'm not. It's weird. Okay, I've said it in numerous videos, do not jump, do not do a jumping puzzle when you're in combat conditions, and this is a great example of that. Because when you're in combat mode, your jumping distance, when you're in combat mode, your movement speed decreases automatically. And so when you're jumping, the exact same thing happens. So it's a good way to get you to pay attention to your surroundings if there are enemies. The second thing is, if it's a narrow cavern, or if it's a height challenged jumping puzzle like this one is, then it teaches you to use your mouse wheel or whatever default you have to zoom in a little closer, you know? Sometimes that helps. There's one in what is it, Caledon Forest. I can't think of what the name of it is off the top of my head. This is another jumping puzzle where you need to zoom in your camera a little bit. So, you know, and that is also another jumping puzzle, by the way, where it's got a bunch of pillars and small platforms you have to deal with. So I've recommended this one numerous times. It's long, but it forces you to deal with the problem of, you know, multiple little platforms, just like this. Now, in this particular case, they're a little wider, so that's why it's also a good training jumping puzzle. So I recommend this one to anybody that's having difficulty with really narrow pillars and poles are sticking out of the ground or whatever. This is an excellent place to get training. Yes, you're going to have to do it over and over and over to finally get it, but when you do finally get it, it will be very, very easy. Now, let me backtrack 3 steps just so I can show you. The only way you can start moving along this S-shaped platform, and no, you cannot see the jumping puzzle on the map. It will not appear. Anyways, the only way you can start, it's a single path, and it's very obvious where you're supposed to go. The only place you can start from is here. Congratulations, you're now in the jumping puzzle. If you fall at any point, the only way you can get back up is to come back to the injured inquest researcher and start all over again. So here we go. One of my recommendations, aside from the jumping puzzle in general, is don't look at it from this angle. Don't look. What you want to do, and I learned it here, is point your camera straight down. That way you're focused on the thing that's right in front of you. You can concentrate on the next one. You're not going to get distracted as easily. And with your camera bouncing up and down a lot, you're not going to be as freaked out when the camera changes. Like what I mentioned with the one over here, there's also a really low ceiling, and the thing you have to do, I recommended in that video, was to zoom your camera in a little bit. The exact same thing applies here. So this is where the camera normally is. Zoom it in a little bit, just a little. Your camera's still going to hit the ceiling, but, you know, don't worry about it. Now, the inquest researcher did point out that there's these random anomalies that are popping up on the path. If you look at my the boon bar, whatever it is, you'll notice all the effects that will happen, and they are also randomly chosen. There's no way you can predict them. So with that said, here we go. And you can wait for them to trigger or not if you see one that's real obvious or whatever. But chances are, if you're just going to rush through it like I am right now, you're probably going to get hit by one of these things. And they're not quite spaced. So there's a perfect example right there. Nearsighted, your perception has been altered, so everything looks close. If I zoom out, well, actually I can't zoom out. This one goes to snake size. You feel tiny. That's actually one of the better ones to have in here. Oops, as soon as I did it. Oh, there's 2 of them. Okay. Farsighted, your perception, everything looks so far away. So the camera actually zooms way out. It's either really close or really far away. So that's another one you have to deal with. Again, the advantage in this particular jumping puzzle, point your camera straight down, you don't have to worry about those effects because the pillars all look the same size. So if you get hit by one of those things, it's not going to bother you. The only thing you have to worry about is like getting knocked off. Oh God, like that, for example. Alright, revenge upon you. Revenge upon you. You suck. And, you know, that's going to happen. And nothing to do with concentration. So, yeah, when you go into the... I suppose that's another recommendation for this particular puzzle. Bring a ranged weapon. And I saw him. Is he going to hit me? I'm not sure. Sometimes you can outrun the shots. Sometimes you can't. Ooh, I don't like that one. What is that? You feel slower. That's actually one of the bad ones to get hit with. Of course, if you go into combat mode... There we go, that's better. I actually prefer the snake one. You move at the same speed. But this one's the exact opposite. God damn it, that's twice. I suppose I could have left him alone, but still. Oops. Okay. The other advantage to jumping on pillars is you don't get confused by the different heights. All these pillars are pretty much the same height. So I don't need to look forward to judge how high they are. In this particular case, I don't have to. If you have a bunch of pillars in other jumping puzzles in a similar fashion, chances are you're going to have some height differences. You learn here to kind of ignore those height differences. Almost. Oh yes, absolutely disable your, absolutely disable, oh, I've got a speed boost there. Absolutely disable your double tap to evade. Absolutely. Whoa. Here we're getting near the end. The other thing about pillars is... Is he going to hit me now? Ta-da. In this particular one, you know, if you're focused on the pillar just in front of you or 2 steps ahead of you, then this jumping puzzle is going to go by really, really fast. You don't have to worry about it whatsoever. So if you want to learn, if you want to train yourself, and you will fall over a couple of times, even I did, if you want to train yourself how to work on successive narrow pillars and platforms, Chaos Crystal Cavern is absolutely the one that I recommend. And you see it just goes... It's just a big old curve. That's it. Done. And then for the exit... And it always dumps you out right here. Just dumps you in the water. Whatever. So... This is AV Unit 4A saying thank you for tuning in.